Welcome back to the Ready Room. I'm your host, Brittany McLean Campbell, and also happy September. Happy back to school. I feel like there's new energy in the air. And also, one important thing about September, the Para World Championships are coming up later this month. To be exact, the 21st of September. And in the lead up to World Championships, we tried to make sure you got to know some of the athletes on the team representing Canada. We're going to do the same for this Para World. So for the next couple of weeks, we'll be dialed into the storylines, feeling more connected to the athletes, and of course, learning maybe a few things we didn't already know about them. So I'm really looking forward to the conversations, and I hope you are too. With that, our guest this week is a 3-time Paralympian. He's a 2-time Paralympic medalist. He's a world champion, and he's also the 5-time winner of Swimming Canada's Male Para Swimmer of the Year award. He's been on the national team for over half his life. Please welcome, I'm going to do my best French pronunciation here, drumroll, Nicolas Guy Turbide. Okay, Nick, how did I do with that pronunciation?
Oh, so well. It was very good.
Thank you. I'm going to try my best. I feel like a lot of your teammates, do they call you Nick or NGT, or do many people just say your whole name?
Yeah, actually on the national team, that's where the NGT nickname was born. So our previous head coach, just one day he's like, "Hey, NGT," and I had no idea what he was talking about until I realized those were my initials. So yeah, that's
I love that.
that's why I was born.
Okay, well, now you're friends. We're friends. Sorry, not we're friends. We are friends. I'm gonna be calling you Nick. I'm gonna be calling you NGT, Nicolas Guy. Let me know if it ever offend you. But I just really appreciate your time today. So thanks so much for hopping on. I'll start with just a general question of, you're in the final push towards Worlds. I know this block of training, it usually goes from like your really hard block into hopefully taper around the corner. I wanted to ask how that final prep's going.
It's going well. Compared to, let's say, last year, before Paris, it's been going great. For me, I've had a couple of health challenges over the years, and now that we're starting slowly to figure them out, it means that in training and in preparation, it usually goes more smoothly. So yeah, very happy about that, and very happy on what I can finally achieve in the water.
Yeah, well, let's dive right into those health difficulties that you've been through, because getting to chat with you at trials just a few months back, that was one of the like staggering stories I heard. And I said, I need to know more about this. And your story is so compelling. And I think it's an important one to share, because no matter what anyone's going through in life, there's general reminders to continue to advocate for yourself, take care of yourself. And you really never know when kind of that like next page is turning over. And I feel like for you, you're getting almost like a second chance at your swimming career. So I want to start by bringing it back to 2022 at World Championships. You won your first ever world title in the 100 backstroke, S13 100 backstroke. And you described after you touched the wall, that was one of the most challenging kind of situations you went through in your career. First of all, how did it feel? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about being the world champion, and then what you experienced immediately after.
Sure thing. So 2022 was supposed to be my moment. So basically, I was ready to win it all in the 100-meter backstroke, which is my main event, and that's actually what happened. But afterwards, it kind of was a bit bittersweet, because it really felt physically like a terrible race. So bad, in fact, then I couldn't swim for the following days. I was bed struck, and basically that race took such a toll on my body that it really kind of drove me past the limit where I thought as an athlete I could be. So I really had to reflect on that performance. And over the past couple of years, I've decided to forego and forget the 100 backstroke and focus on a different event, the 50-meter freestyle instead.
And can you shine some light on the symptoms you experienced, not only that day, but what you kind of had to persevere through for the years, the next following years, including the Paris Paralympics, including the World Championships that came between then? Tell us a bit more about what you were going through at that time.
Yeah, so it's been lingering for many years, and at one point I thought, am I crazy or something? Because I was starting to have symptoms of back pain and migraines in training, which I thought was kind of normal at one point. Just, oh, well, I'm working hard, I'm pushing my body to the limit. Like, I know I'm supposed to be in some kind of pain. I know that sometimes, well, if you drive yourself hard, you can have a small headache, but For me, over the years, it built up, and it was pretty much every day, every time I was training, to the point where some days I would do 3, 4 strokes in the pool, just jump in and basically do one length, and I would be completely fried for the rest of the day. So I would be tired. I would have to take 3, 4 naps. I would be stuck in my bed basically in the dark for the rest of the day. So it wasn't really a good quality of life. And this April, it took a turn where I was starting to have some more important symptoms, like I was having short-term memory loss. So that's when I had to go and consult another doctor for the 20th time. And yeah, that's when I got my answers.
Yeah, and it sounds like it wasn't just affecting your swimming. Like this is affecting your quality of life. This is affecting what you're able to do in your own social time. I know you also work part time. You have other passions in life. This is a round the clock issue you were dealing with. Talk to me about in April when you did get the results back from your doctor and what you found out and how everything changed.
Yeah, so prior to April, I maybe consulted 10 specialist doctors over the years just to figure out what was wrong with my body, because in the end I wanted to know, and it was really affecting my training, but at one stage it was affecting my quality of life. So uh, I saw cardiologists, I saw neurologists, I saw cancer doctors, I saw all of them. I honestly, I forget some of the appointments I've had over the years, but in the end it turned out that I had mercury poisoning from the consumption of fish. So not because I was consuming too much, but because my body wasn't metabolizing it the same way as everybody else. So that in the end turned out to give me all the symptoms. And since then, and since I've managed to cut back on consumption, the symptoms slowly are going away. Some of them might stay in the future. We won't know until we'll tell, but so far there's been a huge improvement.
And when you first found that out, like, were you and the doctor sitting there like, I never imagined this is what I was gonna be diagnosed with? Was there almost a relief that there was an answer? Because after all of those days, like you said, going I know everyone has at least a little bit of, a feeling where they've had this before where you're like, "I think something's wrong, but I don't know really how to describe it, and I might be going crazy." But tell me about that feeling once you got your diagnosis and were just like, "Oh my goodness, okay."
Yeah, well, the first thing, I think I was just relieved to have an answer finally. Like as an athlete, and you know as much as I do, you tend to be very aware on how your body's feeling and what's normal and abnormal for yourself. And for me, I knew something was wrong. I knew something, like I had to do something, but I had no answers over the years. And when we figured that out with the doctor, even the doctor said, like, I've never seen this in the last 10 years, and you're not supposed to be an at-risk part of the at-risk populations. And usually mercury, they only test it for people that want to be pregnant or people that are in a high-risk situation, either that they work in mines or fish and consume all their fish for a living, or paint with certain types of paint that might be contaminated. So yeah, it was kind of we were mind blown in some way.
Yeah, well, it's the things you really don't even think about. And like you said, that immediate relief, I'm sure, because at the time you were thinking, this might be a long journey ahead. You ruled out completely the 100 backstroke, which is one of your premier events. I mentioned it in the intro, but it was the event you first won your Paralympic medal in. You then followed up in Tokyo, stepping up one spot on the podium. Talk to me about the emotion behind reintroducing an event that you haven't swum for 3 years internationally. You, in your head, said, I mean, I can't put my body through this anymore. And now you're about to go to world championships and compete in a race that you've kind of got a whole second chance in.
It's exactly how I see it too. For me, it's like a new career in some way. I feel the same way going towards these world championships as I was in 2011 when I made my first national team. So, uh, and for that specific event, and I had to make so many sacrifices over the last couple of years just to stay in the pool and keep enjoying swimming. Because for me, some days were incredibly tough. Like it's when you don't feel good for the rest of the day and you have to forego all other activities other than swimming, that's when like you kind of cross a line and you need to weigh in your situation. And honestly, if I didn't have an answer, I don't know how long I could have kept going. Um, and especially since it was starting to affect my 50-meter freestyle too. But yeah, I feel like a 14-year-old kid again, and again I'm going to Singapore with all that excitement and that second chance, and who knows, maybe I'll do a time that I in the end I won't be satisfied with, but who cares, because I can swim it again and pain free, and it's just that itself for me it's very gratifying. So.
It's almost like a whole different perspective and almost purpose, right? Because like at the end of the day, any athlete that is at your level is so focused on high performance. And yet when you have the chance to, you almost have the feeling of losing something, you understand what a privilege it is to even get the chance to race. And I feel like I'm so proud to be able to watch you compete this year at Worlds, and knowing that, you've been through so much, and yet you're going to be able to, I was going to say stand on the blocks, but it's backstroke. So you're going to be able to jump in the water with a whole new understanding and excitement of what could be. And sometimes like that, when you kind of take the weight off your shoulders and allow you to swim a little bit more freely, like really great results happen. So yeah, I guess with that, I wondered, do you have any goals for Worlds that you're willing to share, or is it really just about getting back in the swing of things, trying something new, and being really grateful to be there?
Well, first things first, and my main objective for the past couple of years was to try to be the best teammate possible. I think in some way, having been there for so long, you over time get a responsibility of making sure that there's a follow through in what's happening with the program and the team. And my goal is to be there for everybody that needs me at those World Championships. So as a team, we can have the best performance possible. For me personally, for sure, well, now that I am swimming the 100-meter backstroke again, I just want to try to make my mark one more time. So let's say I want to maybe try to get in the final, and then we'll see what happens at finals. So it's the first year after a Paralympic year, so usually that's when there's kind of some doors opening for situations like that. Maybe not all swimmers will be at their prime because they were focused on last year. Maybe they were focusing on themselves and doing other things during a post-Paralympic year, just like in post-Olympic year. So who knows? Like I'm not putting any expectations on positions or medal or podiums, but it's clearly something that could happen, but in the same way, it's not part of my objective.
I think that's such an important reminder. And I loved your first comment because that was one of the things I was going to ask you about. I know team is so important to you. You've been on this national team. I teased it for over half your life, which is such a huge accomplishment. Your first team was the Pan Am Games back in 2011. I wondered, going into Singapore, there are going to be athletes that you know really well, and then there's going to be other athletes that are maybe on their first national team, and you can kind of show them the ropes. How do you feel about this team going into Singapore, and what do you feel is a bit different about this group?
Well, para swimming in that sense is quite different because there's not a lot of turnover of swimmers. You will usually have the same people on the national teams, and maybe every year have one, maybe two different swimmers that have never made a team. I think this year is a bit different. I think there's some swimmers that are taking a year off, so won't be competing at World Championships this year. There's a bunch of new swimmers, the upcomers that are going to be real good podium potentials in the following years that are finally making their mark and joining the national team. So I'm very excited to just get to chat with them and see their perspective and see how they're seeing their their potential and their career in general, and then make sure that they have the best experience possible while we're trying to perform our best.
It's great. And I think last year's Paralympic Games was a reminder that, the vets are showing up, like Aurelie getting on the podium so many times. And then there's some new names like Sebastian Masavi getting his first Paralympic medal. And I know like there's always going to be kind of a changing of the guard in the post Paralympic year, but I think it takes these figures like you that have been through the ringer before. You can guide people towards what it's like, because you go into a world championships and it is kind of a big tee up for the Paralympic Games. You're going to be able to, you're in a place far away from home. You're doing a bit of a staging camp or a training camp beforehand. You're in different environment, different food, all the things. So I think people don't realize that you're kind of put in an uncomfortable position, but have to perform at the highest level. And I hope you guys do some team bonding and get to know everyone a little bit in advance. I know you stuck around Victoria for a day to at least make sure everyone was familiar, but I know you're one of those great leaders that helps kind of guide the next generation, which I just want to say thank you, because it's thanks to people like you that make this program so special. So thank you for that, Nick.
Oh, well, thanks. That's a huge compliment, actually.
Well, I will continue to rave about you for years to come. I wanted to know though, because I think there's a lot of athletes that, will focus this year on Worlds, and that's one thing. Focus on the Paralympic Games, that's another thing. But I always like to bring it back to where it all began. And I think a lot of athletes have these like aha moment of, okay, that was what I remember as like, I want to really take this seriously. Or maybe it's an experience where they were like, okay, I see it, I can be it. Do you have one of those in your career that stands out as a moment where you walked away thinking, I really want to be successful and swim at a high level?
For me, everything changed in 2012 at Olympic and Paralympic trials, which were in Montreal when you qualified for your Olympic Games. Um, I was 15 years old at the time, and I was still debating if what I wanted to do was swim and try to perform the best I could, or was it to enjoy my time, learn a new ability, have some friends, and go through my high school years basically having a fun sport to do along. So when I got the chance to see what high performance was all about, when I saw some of my teammates qualify for the Olympics and Paralympic Games that year, I think there's something that woke up in me and said, like maybe that could be you in 4 years or 8 years, who knows? But like if you put down the work and having already performed quite well the previous year and getting a chance to go to the Paralympian Games in Mexico, I knew that I had some kind of potential. But when I was younger, I wasn't necessarily to the abilities where I wanted to be at. I was kind of a slow grower. Like I was teeny tiny. I was called a twig basically by the whole national team when I was in 2011, 2012. And then that was a very accurate representation on how I was. I was very lengthy, but very skinny and no muscle mass whatsoever. So I knew that I had plenty to gain and to apply to my performance in the following years. So yeah, when I saw Catherine Savard sign the red bus to go to London for the Olympics, that's when I said, maybe I'll do that in a couple of years. And that's when I really put my heart to it and decided to go for it and put my times all towards swimming.
And I think that's such a great reminder, because we all had those moments. I had a similar one in 2008 in the same pool, by the way. And I'm also so honored that you even remember me qualifying for the Olympics. So thank you for that. But I remember I got to I just missed qualifying for the trials. And then my sister had gone. I had a few friends that were going. So I went and I watched in the Olympic pool in Montreal. And I remember sitting there and I was like, I am not sitting in these stands any longer. I'm going to be in the pool next time. And sure enough, next time I was in the pool. And similar to what you mentioned, like 2012 was that, watching and learning, taking it all in. And by the next Paralympic cycle, you were on the Paralympic podium. So it happens. You actually shared with me a fun story about Maggie McNeil. Do you mind sharing that as well, as kind of the lasting impact and a lesson you learned based on watching her?
Yeah, well, in 2016, when I qualified for my first Paralympics, Maggie McNeil was also taking part. Well, she was taking part in our first Olympic trials, and I got to see her walk around the pool deck, and nobody knew who Maggie McNeil was at the time necessarily. I knew her because of another teammate. But yeah, I just remember her vividly, like struggling and wanting to make that 100-meter butterfly final so much. And I think in the end, she made it and qualified and made it for the first time under a minute mark. And then just remembering that, and 5 years later being on top of the world at the Olympics in 2021. So for me, like that meet specifically has such a big impact, because you're in front of your home audience, you're in front of your family, you're in front of your friends, you're in Canada, and that's when afterwards they'll wave at you and see you go and compete against the world stage. So yeah, for me that was as memorable as 2012, and it kind of told me it's like, all right, this is why, this is kind of what I wanted to do 4 years ago in London. So that's kind of how the dream was built for me too. So yeah, I thought that was a very fun and cool thing to remember and to see.
It's such an important reminder because, like you said, one Olympic trials for her, it was about getting into the final, squeaking into the final, getting under the 1 minute barrier. And by the next trials, she gets on her first Olympic team and wins the Olympic Games. Like it's just, it really, so much can change in a couple of years. And I hope that inspires athletes to know that if you're not quite where you want to be, the best yet might be right around the corner. So thank you for that story. I love hearing those little anecdotes and memories back. I love looking back. One thing I did want to ask you to kind of share with our listeners, if possible, just a general reflection on what do you wish more people knew about para swimming, whether it's in Canada or in general around the world?
I think the misconception that most people have is that paraswimming will be only for certain types of people, for certain types of disabilities, and they'll focus on either seeing somebody that's amputated, somebody that's in a wheelchair, somebody that will be completely blind. But the truth of the matter is, the Paralympics is just an equal playing field. So basically, it's making sure that everybody has their place in the sport and that they can perform and shine as much as everybody else. So for me, the way I see it is, I come from a family of golfers. So my dad is a big avid golfer and my mom is too. And when you play golf against somebody that's not necessarily to your level, well, you give them a mulligan, you give them a shot. So for para swimming, it's kind of the same way, but instead of being on talent level, it's based on ability. So if I, for example, compete in a meet where I would compete against somebody that doesn't have the same disability as me, well, how can we make it fair for everybody in that race? Well, there's a point system that will equate all performances, so everybody has a shot based on what they can actually achieve.
Yeah, and it allows like it's just such it's not just one thing one word to say it is inclusive, but I think that doesn't even do it justice because like you said, everybody is going through something completely different. There is no comparing one disability to another. It is truly about trying to do what is possible to allow everyone to race at the most equal level. And with that, it's going to come with challenges. A lot of people have classifications that change rapidly, so there are bigger challenges. But I think that's such a great lesson learned is that it's a place for so many to compete at such a high level, put their heart and soul into something, and chase big dreams like you're currently doing. And I'm so excited to watch you do things, big things at World Championships. Nick, before we let you go, I am going to pull a question. It is time for our no cap segment. So I am going to pull a question out of a cap, which, by the way, we're always in need of more questions. So if you're watching this at home, please submit as many questions as possible. Coming off of trials, we did have a few questions on the Paralympic system. So I tried to make sure I threw a couple in here for you. So I'm going to open it. Okay. So we just ended with a conversation on classification. The question is, how does classification work for you specifically as an S13 athlete?
Well, for me, for people that don't know, I was born with a visual impairment. So I was born legally blind. And the best way that I can explain that vision, because people ask me all the time, is basically if we took the camera of your phone and you tried to take a photo or a video and you had the sun shining at you, or you had a lot of people either walking around or a lot of movement, well, my eyes will have a lot of trouble focusing on whichever I want to focus on. So for me, seeing from far away is incredibly difficult. So now when I swim backstroke, I need somebody at the wall to give me basically a tap behind the head with what we call a tapper. So it's we use usually like long golf ball retrievers, and they'll just hit me behind the head, and that will be my cue on when I need to do my flip turn. Otherwise, I will just run in the wall like it happened a couple of years ago. So yeah, I need for me it's not a team event because I need at least two people that will guide me to the other end of the pool now that I'm swimming and that my vision is affecting me more.
And no wonder you have migraines if you're getting hit in the head.
Oh, that's
I,
actually much less painful than the wall.
oh, fair enough, fair enough. I did want to ask about how frequent you need to be tested for your classification.
So for me, it's every 4 years. I know
Okay.
some certain types of visual disabilities will require them to have them every 2 years, but for me, it's every 4 years. I need to be reevaluated by an ophthalmologist, and then we will attend one international meet where international classifiers will reevaluate you. So for me, it's another ophthalmologist, and they'll basically do a full eye exam to figure out, well, how exactly do you see? How exactly do you measure? And in the end, how much does it affect you when you're swimming? So for me, I'm in the S13 category because I'm between the threshold for that category.
It's so interesting to learn more about, and we're grateful because I know it's not always easy to talk through all the details and the minutia of what to you is very just common kind of part of your practice and what makes you a high performance athlete. But I think my goal here is to continue to educate our audience to make sure they're a little bit aware. And one of the things that always comes up is the classification process, and we've been trying to learn about over time, but it really does seem like for some athletes it's a very invasive process. But for yours, I feel like in a sense it was positive. You mentioned you just have a written test and some, of course, other vision tests, like you said, but you do not have to swim for yours, which I thought was also kind of like an added, not a fun fact necessarily, but an interesting tidbit to learn. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. But we are going to let you go because it's a very busy time for you. Final prep for Singapore. The World Championships begin on the 21st of September. And you're swimming, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're swimming on day 4 and day 5. That'll be the 100 back and the 50 free. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Well, we're wishing you the best of luck and also the rest of the team the best of luck. I know you're a massive leader, and they're so, so lucky to have you guiding this team towards great things in Singapore. We cannot wait to tune in. Nicolas Guy, we appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Britt.
Bye bye.